Good morning, everybody. Good evening, good night, whatever time it is. Welcome. It is Friday morning here in Georgetown, Texas, just north of Austin. I want to welcome everybody here. I want to remind you, please do me a favor and subscribe before we get going. Hit that subscribe button, turn it from red to gray. Don't forget to ring the bell. Turn all bell notifications so you're notified each and every time I go live or I upload a video. So today we're going to talk about Elon. I got some pretty interesting information, not only about what Elon is going to do with Twitter, and how do I know? Because he said some of these things in the past. We dug up all those things so I could share it with you. I've never been, really into Twitter, but I got to tell you, I'm going to be into it now, and I think you might be too once you listen to this entire broadcast today. I also have some information about Elon growing up and what his childhood was like and what was going on there. So this is going to be a really interesting, I think, informative session today. You're going to get a lot out of it, but I also want to get your input too. So make sure in that chat box that you're saying something. Let me know what you think about Elon. What do you think about Twitter? What do you think is going to happen? Is it going to matter? And I got to tell you, I think it's going to affect the entire world. In different ways. Whether you're on Twitter or not, it's going to affect you. So it's kind of interesting to follow this. And I want to step everybody through stuff. I think I'd like to start out really with giving you, a little bit of knowledge about Elon and, what's going on with him and what his childhood was like and all that good stuff. First off, let me tell you how smart this guy is. This is pretty interesting stuff here. This guy actually sold his first invention when he was 12 years old. 12 years old. I mean, that's pretty darn amazing. He's always liked computers and money and business, all that stuff. But as a child, he actually taught himself how to do coding, and he created a game called Blastar. When he was 12 years old, he sold it to PC and Office Technology magazine for $500. Now, that's pretty cool when you're 12, right? 2 years later, he actually came up with another business venture. Along with his younger brother and cousins, Elon sold overpriced Easter chocolates to his neighbors. Their sales pitch, that the buyers were helping young capitalists. Okay, so he always had a sales pitch. Another, of his teenage ventures was to open an arcade next to his school. That's pretty interesting. Once again, he recruited his brother and his cousins, got all those guys together, and the kids did all the paperwork, but they needed an adult to sign off of the lease. So eventually they told their parents about it. However, the adults were not so happy to have been kept in the dark and shut out of all this stuff, but they did it anyhow. Elon Musk was really kind of a lonely kid. And all this is going to lead into what he's going to do with Twitter. At the very end, I'm going to go through all the steps in Twitter so you know what he's going to do, because I think it's pretty interesting. He grew up really in this big, beautiful home in Pretoria, South Africa. But according to him, the house was always empty. Even the housekeeper herself was too busy doing her chores to look after him. So Elon actually spent his days reading or doing unsupervised experiments in the backyard, like making explosives, stuff like that. He considers it a miracle that he still has all of his fingers because of all the stuff he was making. His younger brother, whose name is Kimball, has also said that they spent a lot of time alone, that even when their parents were present, they did not really connect with the kids. But Elon was not only lonely, he was taken in a deep step further and stated his childhood was terrible. He hated his childhood. The former model is still surrounded by models. His wife is a supermodel. Cindy Crawford and their children, Presley and Kaya, are now models too. So that's kind of interesting. Elon actually was seriously bullied in school. I mean, bullied bad. He attended a private school where the kids bullied him and sometimes threw rocks at him. So his parents switched him to a public school, which was called Bryanston High. But things got even worse there. The small, shy boy now became the target of a gang of bullies. At that time, Elon said for a number of years, there was no letting up. These kids picked on him all the time. He would get chased around the schoolyard by these gangs who tried to beat the crap out of him. Then he'd come home and it'd just be awful as well there too. So it was just, there was no break for anything. And then one day the aggression pushed him down a set of stairs, and then they beat him up while he landed. I mean, this is pretty bad. Elon was in the hospital for several days over this. He was so badly beaten that when his father saw him, he didn't even recognize him. That's how bad this kid was beat up. He's now the richest guy in the world. Pretty amazing, right? So I don't know what your childhood was like, but mine was tough too, but so what? He was unable to get the police to do anything about the attack. So Elon transferred his son again, Errol, which is his dad, transferred him again, this time to Pretoria Boys High School. Things got a little bit better at Pretoria. The bullying was less severe. Plus, Elon, after leaving the hospital, put down his books and started taking karate lessons. Oh, he's going to be a tough guy, right? By the time he was 16, he was fighting back. He was still losing the fights, don't get me wrong. But eventually, the bullies realized he was not that easy prey, and they stopped bothering him. It probably did not hurt that his growth spurt had finally kicked in. The one small boy grew to be 6'2" and weighed 200 pounds. So that's pretty interesting. Now, what I want to do is I want to move over a little bit to what's going to happen at Twitter. And what I've done is I've gathered information on things he said in the past to kind of support all these things we think he's going to do. Nobody is sure 100%. Okay, I get that. You're never going to be sure 100%. However, these things are pretty interesting. Now, as I'm talking about this, guys, feel free to use that chat box, ask any questions you want, put your input in there about Elon, and let me know what you're thinking, because that interaction matters so much when I'm doing one of these. So Elon agreed, in case you don't know, in case you've been under a rock, to buy Twitter for $44 billion in cash. That's a lot of money. Now, cash isn't always cash because he got banks involved, and leveraging his stock, he borrowed against his stock is what he did. Now, yesterday, he sold $4 billion worth of his stock, and that drove the stock price way down because people are worried that he won't have enough money to finance it, but I'm sure he'll be fine. He's done a lot of this stuff before. So let's talk a little bit about what he's going to do. The first thing he's talking about is the edit button. He noted in the social media platform's lack of edit button back in a 2019 tweet. And he said, here was the tweet, "Where's the edit function when you really need it?" So the thinking is he's going to do something about it. And then in TED 2022 conference in April, which is this month of 2022, Musk said he wants Twitter to have an edit button and believes the problems critic raised could be resolved. He said, "I think you only have to edit capability for a short period of time and zero out all retweets and favorites after the edit." Okay, so that's going to end that. So in April 2022, he polled his followers on whether they would like an edit button. Now keep in mind, he's got 83 million followers. 74% of more than 44 million respondents voted yes. So 4.4 million responded to it, and they voted yes. They wanted that edit button. So odds are he's probably going to do it. Twitter confirmed after the poll it is working on an edit button, adding, "No, we didn't get the idea from a poll." Well, maybe not, depending on how you look at it. But it is kind of interesting that once he said it, they started talking about they were going to work on it. Now, the next thing is long form tweets. This has been a sore spot for a long, long time. Musk has also suggested long form tweets. He commented on a long Twitter thread in April of 2022. So if you notice, all these things are happening right before he bought Twitter. He said, "My most immediate takeaway from the novella of a thread is that Twitter is way overdue for long form tweets." Okay, so odds are he's probably going to change it. Twitter has, I think it's 280 characters right now, but they changed it from 140 characters in 2017. So they were heading that direction anyhow. Okay, so he's not the only one that's ever looked at that. The next thing he's going to look at is spam bots and authentication. Okay, Musk once called spam bots the single most annoying problem on Twitter. Okay, so he doesn't like them. He tweeted in April 2022, and if you notice, all these things are April 2022. "If our Twitter bid succeeds, we will defeat the spam bots or die trying." So he's probably going to get all those bots off there. He's got ways of doing it. He's got teams to work on it. He wrote in a reply, to that tweet that Twitter would authenticate all real humans under his ownership. Now, my wife said she logged in the other day and she had to go through all kinds of hoops to get into her account. They were asking her all these different questions to authenticate her. I haven't seen that yet. I've logged in. I haven't seen it. Doesn't mean it's not coming. Also, he wants to do open source algorithms. So he said he's concerned about the biases being inherent on Twitter's algorithm, which he said he would solve with open source algorithms. In late March, which is last month, he tweeted, "I'm worried about de facto bias in the Twitter algorithm having a major effect on public discourse. How do we know what's really happening?" So he's already tuned into that. He's already thought about that. He's already going to do something about that. I think that's pretty interesting too. He also polled his followers on whether they would support open source algorithms. And 83% of the more than 1.1 million respondents said they would. So 83% are down with that too. Now, we got to be smart about this, right? We got to be smart. An open source algorithm would make publicly available the calculus which determines what appears on a person's feed. So you would now know what is controlling what's going to go on your feed and what's not going to go on your feed. Content moderation. Musk has outlined his free speech first vision for Twitter. He said at the TED 2022 conference, he thinks Twitter should not regulate content beyond what is required by the laws of the countries it operates in. Now, in the UK, they have a lot of laws, or United Kingdom does, and actually in Europe, there's a lot of different laws that have not made it to the US yet. And I heard on NPR the other day, they were talking about that. But there's going to be some changes in the laws, I can promise you that. A lot of people are going to be super unhappy with West Coast high tech as the de facto arbitrator of free speech. Musk actually said in a tweet he put in January of 2021. So it is easier to advocate broad policy change from the outside of a company like Twitter than to enact it from within. It's not an easy thing to do. It also is worth remembering that Musk has been a really ongoing tweeter, I guess you would call it, and his plans could easily change, which that does happen, guys. It does happen. Now, the stock on Twitter has really gone, well, the stock on Twitter has actually gone altogether now, but it was all over the place before. Twitter has never really kept up with all the other social media platforms. It's always kind of lagged behind. Now, growing up, Elon was always looked upon as a leader, even with all of his problems with other kids. He was the oldest of three kids. His brother, Kimball, is 1 year younger, and his sister, I think her name was Tosca. Yeah, Tosca, is 3 years younger than Elon. Filling the gap and being the leader is a tough thing to do. Fulfilling the big brother stereotype is even tougher to do. Elon was the one who called the shots in his family. He always did. His siblings and younger cousins followed his lead. And you can see there's people still following his lead, right? He chose the games. He led their early business ventures, like the idea of the arcade, all that stuff. You know, he was the guy starting everything. He has not changed in that respect. His mom, too, fell under his spell. Elon is the one that decided the family should move to North America. So at age 17, he left towards the new world. His mom, siblings, and cousins followed him shortly thereafter. Elon is very close to his siblings and mom. They're all still very close, so it's not like they're not. Since the Musk siblings grew up without much adult supervision, they kind of bonded together, and that happens. His brother Kimball is part of Elon's every business venture. Everything he does, his brother's involved. Together, they sold Easter eggs, which I told you earlier, and they tried to open the arcade. Later on, they launched a company called Zip2 and co-founded X.com, which became PayPal. You guys may have heard of a little company called PayPal. Kimball was on the board of the two Elon companies, Tesla and SpaceX, and Elon was the best man at Kimball's 2018 wedding. So that's kind of interesting too. Tosca and Elon are very close. The brothers lived in San Francisco when they were in their 20s. They were working on a startup called Zip2, and Tosca flew from Canada and stayed with him to help him out. To this day, if she needs advice or any kind of support, she rings the big brother, Elon, to help her out. So he's very interesting dude. He actually left South America so he would not have to serve in the military. He didn't want to go in the army, and that's one of the requirements there. So he left. And so he actually went to Canada initially and then to America. Back then, South Africa was still under the apartheid system, which segregated people. Whites had access to one set of the schools, shops, beaches, neighborhoods, which is ridiculous. I mean, I can't wrap my brain around that now, but that actually went on. It's a crazy, crazy government. Elon actually dropped out of Stanford before attending any classes. I guess he thought, I already know most of this. What are they going to teach me, right? But once he was in North America, he graduated with a double major in business and physics. He was accepted to Stanford, where he meant to get his PhD in energy physics, but he didn't do it. So he's a really interesting guy. He's gotten involved in a lot of fields. I know in 2015, he kind of got on my radar because I was in the automotive business for many, many years. And I saw what he was saying, I heard what he was saying about the automotive industry and how to change it. And I thought, wow, this guy's a genius. So I bought his stock. And I'm very glad I did, by the way. It was a very good purchase. I think it was like $137 or something like that when I bought it. And it's gone up so many times, it's ridiculous now. But he totally changed that industry. I mean, he's the guy who singularly changed that industry. None of these other manufacturers at the time were thinking about doing any type of electric cars. I mean, they dabbled in it, but they really weren't serious about it. They really weren't doing anything about it. And when he came along, people told him what he couldn't do. They said, you cannot make a car that's going to go fast if it's electric. It's just not going to do it. It's not going to have the power to go fast. He proved him wrong. And then they said, well, you may be able to make it fast, because he made that roadster thing, the fast Tesla. They said, but there's no way you can make it go very far. I mean, you just can't. The batteries will wear down and you can't go very far. And he proved him wrong, because the Teslas now actually go further than a gasoline car. And they said, well, okay, you did that, but you can't really compete with the big three. You can't do it. You can't, they've been around for years. They've been around for over 100 years. You can't compete with them. He blew them all away. Okay. And then they said, well, okay, you could do that, but you really couldn't sell to the mass market the way they do. Okay. You couldn't make a car that is cost effective that the average person can purchase. And he did that. Okay. He did the Y and the 3. So I think it's really interesting how everybody keeps telling him he can't do stuff. And he keeps coming along saying, well, yes, I can. And here I go. And he does it over and over and over again. He got involved in SpaceX and making his own rockets. And it was really funny, because I heard an interview with him on 60 Minutes a number of years ago. And the interviewer said to him, they said, Elon, they said, how in the world could you start a rocket company? You're not a rocket scientist. I mean, how could you do that? And he said, and I quote, well, there's books. And he realized at that time, he says, the knowledge I need is always there. I don't have to have gone to school. I can read a book. I can watch a video. I can learn how to do this stuff. And he's working on a lot of other things. He's got Neuralink right now, which is a brain implant thing that he says he's going to be able to cure people who are paralyzed. And I've seen some demonstrations of that. It's pretty amazing. He's got the boring company where he's boring these tunnels underneath the ground to shoot people around. He said, there's 3 levels of transportation. There's underground, there's above ground, and then there's in the sky. There's 3 different levels. So he wants to work on all 3 different levels. And if you think about it, he actually is. He's got the boring company where cars will shoot underneath the ground. He's got Tesla cars, which drive on the ground. And then he's got the rockets, which are above the ground. So he's looking at the 3 levels of transportation when he zeroes in on this. And people are not that, oh my God, he's so basic, but he's so smart, And if you get the feeling that I like Elon and what he does, it's very true. Now, I don't know him as a person, know nothing about him as a person. But from what I've seen in interviews, the guy seems pretty funny. He seems pretty loose. And I did a video the other day on Elon. And the question I asked you guys was, what was the one trait that he had that no billionaire in history has ever had before? What is that one trait? And everybody guessed everything from work ethic, which you could certainly find billionaires with work ethic, to intelligence, and you could find a lot of intelligent ones. to stick-to-itiveness, to handling objections. All these guesses came out, and I could always find somebody who had those traits, but I couldn't find anybody who had the one trait that I found in Elon, and that is a billionaire with a sense of humor. He's a billionaire with a sense of humor. How many of those do you know? I don't know any. I don't think Bezos is a funny guy. I just don't, okay? I don't think Warren Buffett is a guy I'd want to hang out with and talk to. I mean, every time I hear him talk, I get bored to death. But Elon is a funny guy. He's got a sense of humor. He tweets funny things. He does funny things. He made his cars make a farting noise. I mean, he's just a funny guy. How many people do you know that's been a billionaire that are funny? I mean, that's a really cool trait. That makes people want to be around you. That makes people want to work with you, especially if you're smart and you're rich. Okay, if you're all those things and you're funny, okay, that's a big deal. And put in the comment section, if you're not watching this live, guys, you can still comment on this subject. All you do is put it in the comment section below. I will come back and I will respond to anything you have to say. Don't worry about that. I will come back and talk to you. But put it in there. If you've got questions about this, you've got questions about Twitter. I've done some research on it, and I was going to buy Twitter right when he announced that he was going to buy the company. And I think everybody got like a 20% premium, or I don't know what it was. I didn't look into the exact finances of it. And I didn't buy it, obviously. I didn't do it in time. But I did buy a stock the other day I think is a good pick. And you guys can check it out. And I'm not a stock analyst or anything like that. I did once have a stockbroker's license, so I know enough about it to dabble. And I've got a little portfolio and I play around with it a little bit. But the stock I'm talking about is Netflix. Netflix stock is at one of the lowest points it's been in years. And I want to say it's like $190. Let's see, what is Netflix stock right now? Let me see. Netflix. I want to see because I just bought it. I know it was over 100. And I bought it, I think, 190 yesterday or day before yesterday. It's 199 right now, and I think I bought it at 189, 190. But let's see here. Let me go max and look at the stock. It was over 600 in 2021, and now it's 199. I think it's a good pick. Now, the reason it dropped like that, guys, and I just want to add a little bit of finance stuff because we talk about making money online. The reason it dropped like that is they came out with their reports and their subscriber base had gone down. And you know what? At some point, it's got to go down, right? I mean, once everybody's got Netflix, everybody's got Netflix, right? And there's other streaming services out there too. And they were spending a lot of money on these comedy specials. And then the other problem that they ran into was everybody was sharing their Netflix login. So, one family member would buy it and they'd give it to 30 other people. So, that would really cut down on your subscribers. So what they've announced is that after their earnings came out and they weren't what they should be, is that they're going to crack down on this login sharing thing. And I don't know why, but nobody's ever shared one with me. I don't know. They never gave me anything free. I've always paid for Netflix. But if they crack down on that and they rein in some of their spending, I think the stock can go nothing but up. I mean, that's my opinion. Doesn't mean it's guaranteed. I'm not giving you stock advice. I don't have the credentials to do that. But I've done okay with my investing. I've made money overall. And I think that's a good pick. So if you're looking for a stock, that would be it. If you're looking for a social media to get on now, after all this information I've given you today, I think you would have to agree that Twitter would be one to get on. If nothing else, in the short term, a lot of people are going to get on Twitter to see what it's all about now that Elon's there. They said the other day that a whole bunch of people deactivated their accounts. But if you read further into it, they said it was the normal deactivation that they normally have. Okay, a lot of people always deactivate their accounts. It happens all the time. So I think overall, I think Twitter is going to be an interesting thing to watch. You can't invest in it. One guy owns it now. But I think it is going to open up some freedom of speech. It's going to also let some hate speech out, which none of us like it. I don't like hate speech. I despise it. However, people have a right to say whatever they want. I just like hate speech so much that if I go to a restaurant and the food is horrible and the service is bad, I don't write a review. I just don't do it. I used to, but then I got to thinking, why put any effort into anything negative? So I will do a review if a restaurant's really good and try to help them out. But if I don't like it, it's just me that doesn't like it. I shouldn't hurt that restaurant. I shouldn't hurt that business. So I don't. So a number of years ago, I quit doing any kind of negative reviews. I only do nice ones. So if I come to your restaurant, you have nothing to worry about. You can only do better. Okay. Today we're going to go to another restaurant. We do it every Friday. If you guys don't follow me on Facebook, do that, because what I do is I post the restaurant I go to. I post a couple pictures of us, the restaurant, the food we're eating. Tell you, hey, if it's great or whatever. And some people will comment on there and I'll answer them. And if you have interest in that, go to my Facebook page, JR Fisher. Find me there, friend me, and you're going to see some of those reviews. And my friendship list goes up and down. Sometimes it gets filled up, but I get rid of some people, so there'll be room. Join me and take a look at some of that stuff there. Do you guys have any other questions or anything you'd like to know about Twitter, about Elon, about making money online? I don't care if it's about emails and sales pages or whatever. I'm here to serve you. I do this generally every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So I'm here to serve you guys. Any questions you may have, please put them in that chat box there. If you're not watching this live, put it in the comments section, and I will come back and answer those too. And we've got like 2 or 3 more minutes and I'm going to sign off. So if you want to get something in there, now's the time to do it. And also, now's the time to also hit that subscribe button, turn it from red to gray. Don't forget to ring the bell. Turn on all bell notifications so you're notified each and every time I go live or I upload a video. That's very helpful. And guys, the thumbs up button, wow, you have no idea how much that thumbs up button helps. If you would just click it, I'll give you a second. Go ahead. Did you do it? Did you click it? Thank you so much for doing it. If you did, I really, really appreciate it. Hey guys, this session has been fun today. I love talking to you guys. The channel's growing. It gets a little bit bigger every day. It's not skyrocketing, but it doesn't matter. It gets bigger every day. It doesn't shrink every day. So as long as it's getting bigger, as long as we're growing, as long as I can help you guys out, I love getting your input. If I've given you something that's been useful and helpful, please share my channel. Please give me a comment and let me know that it's helped you. That's really nice. I see somebody just click that like button. I appreciate that. So that really, really helps this channel out, guys. I really appreciate it. Everybody on here, if you would click that like, that would matter so much to me. I mean, it only takes a second. You just go, look, this is a mouse. You just go click. That's it. Let's just click. That's all you got to do. It's so easy. All right, guys. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Hey, let me know if you like the beard or not. I was thinking about getting rid of this. Been growing it for a little bit. I don't know. You tell me. Should it stay or should it go? You can put that in the comment section. Whether this is live or not, put it in the comment section there. You can put it in the chat right now because we are live. But you're going to hear this later and go, well, no, you're not. So, oh, well, that's just the way it is when you do a live thing. Guys, thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate each and every one of you. I will be back again on Monday. And then also on Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, I have uploaded videos that's going to be going out. So look out for those. I got some really cool ones I just filmed. I'll be editing this weekend to have more come out. And I really appreciate all you guys. Thank you so much. And I will see you on Monday.